Hello and welcome to another special edition of the New Watchers on the Wall. Have a very special guest with us, Brother Carter. Say what's up to the people, Carter.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings.
And I'm excited to talk about this Gladiator 2 movie because if you see some of the reviews and what people were saying, some people are said the sequel that we didn't need. And I think that if you go into it with that attitude, you may not enjoy the film or you may not even go see the film at all. But I was pleasantly surprised. So let's just start off with our overall general thoughts of what was like one of your favorite parts from Gladiator 2, Brother Carter.
Well, one of my favorite parts really was the ability of Denzel's character to manipulate the emperors against each other. And that scene where he grabbed the emperor with the monkey and had him just slice the throat of his brother, uh, that just showed the power doesn't sit on the throne, but sits behind the throne.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. But one of my favorite part, well, Denzel was my favorite, just everything that he was doing. And when I watched this, when you see a lot of the reviews and like people just kind of talking about the show, they make it seem like Denzel is a subservient character. So when I went into it, I didn't think that Denzel was going to play such a big part. And really, to me, Denzel had one of the standout parts in this film because, in a lot of ways, he reminded me a lot of Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, how manipulative he was behind the scenes and making things happen. And in particular, we were talking about this earlier. You were talking about him. What were you saying about him, Brother Carter? You saying that he flips the what were you saying
He,
about him?
he's the linchpin. He's the one that was a strategist. They portrayed him as an antagonist, but he was the quintessential example of the art and science of strategy. And he was able to assess every player on the field, so to speak, and how to play towards their weakness. He was the ultimate strategist.
I agree 100%. And the things that he was doing, behind the scenes to accomplish the things that he wanted to accomplish, I just was blown away at some of the things that he was able to do. And in particular, when he had the emperor kill his own brother, he manipulated him to the point of having him willing to kill his own brother so that he could kind of take over the throne. And then in fact, he goes and kills after he becomes the king, he then kills him to try to take over after he, kind of reinstated him as one of his top advisors or whatever the case may be. And I just thought the acting performance was absolutely, amazing. What did you think about like some of the visual effects and the fighting scenes, Carter?
I think they were spot on. I think their camera angles was excellent. I think the visual in regards to mixing the crowd and mixing the background scenery was right on point. It kept you constantly engaged. It wasn't just a single shot, but they were able to edit all of the stuff that was going around you in the fight, and you felt totally immersed in the fighting scene from various perspectives, not just the fighters, but you almost got a feel that you were on scene and actually witnessing the fight, and that is a testament to a great movie producer.
And the thing that was interesting to me was Lucius's journey, right? He in some ways he had a similar journey to Maximus and Gladiator, the first one, where he became a slave as a result of like war, worked his way up and getting to like the main Colosseum. And we see Lucius in this Gladiator, he goes through the same thing, but his journey starts when Maximus kills the king and Gladiator 1, his mom sends him away because she's afraid for his safety. And he's off and about somewhere, and the Roman Empire comes and tackles and takes over where he is now living, and he then becomes a slave and he works his way up. And it was interesting to me how they had similar stories, even though they're completely different people. But he was living understanding that Maximus was his dad, and but he had to live like this normal life. So it was interesting to see how he kind of came into, what he was supposed to do as the, the movie went on. What did you think about, his character development, what he was experiencing, as a character, and the things that he went through?
I think they did a phenomenal job in really sharing with us the dream of Rome. See, he was the continuation of his grandfather and father dream that Rome was of the people and for the people. And so it shows us that someone from a humble beginning could actually rise up and become a leader in Rome. Well, that was the foundation of this experiment we call the United States. That if you can start out life modest, but with opportunity and with drive and perseverance, you too can rise to become the leader of this country. Hence the Obama syndrome, if you will. And so that's what I like about is the messaging that no matter where you start, you have the opportunity to rise up. And I just like how they did the full circle, which says that sometimes the dreams that we have may not be fulfilled in our lifetime, but it could actually be fulfilled through our children and our grandchildren. He was the fulfillment of his grandfather's vision, and his father took on the vision of Lucius' grandfather, but Lucius became the fulfillment of their dream. And that's the beauty of it, man. They just gave me hope as a father to
Mm,
know that my dreams that I have may not be fulfilled in my lifetime, but
mhm.
my children's children can make that dream come into reality.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It was, I wasn't expecting it to be that style of story. And one of the other things that I thought was interesting, and we kind of talked on a little bit earlier, when you talk about like the set design and different things like that. What did you think about the fight scene? They had some good fight scenes, but that one that was, and this, I guess we kind of getting into things that I think that they maybe could have improved on, but that fight scene where they were in the boats in the Coliseum, they had flooded the Coliseum with water and they had sharks in there. I was watching that and I was like, ugh, is that just a little bit too over the top? Is that just a little bit too much CGI? Because everything else was relatively grounded. You know what I'm saying? The fight scenes and things like that. Probably the other thing that was somewhat kind of crazy was the guy who was fighting on the rhinoceros. But that water scene with the sharks and all of that, that was interesting to me. What were your thoughts about that one?
Well, I like that they put that in there because that is a historical fact. The Romans actually did something like that before in
Mm,
filling a Colosseum up with water. So that was true to history. And
mm,
so it just goes to show you the magnitude and the science that the Romans had in regards to pulling off something like that, which even still transitions over because Britain first, which was Britannia, and now America is the two children of Rome, and we see those same type of energy put towards football in America when
mm.
we see the over the top with
Spectacle.
entertainers at halftime. Well, that's really based on what the Romans did, and I think they did a wonderful job in keeping our excitement in there with the sharks and the whole 9 yards, and just make you realize if I was put into that situation, would I be able to survive? And that's where, and I just thought that was amazing because it was a lot of overlapping things. You had boat to boat fighting. You had individuals falling off the boat into the sharks. You had Lucius using strategy and able to command the gladiators to listen to him as a leader, and he outfought the other people, which was kind of foreshadowing to let people know that this man had to be a blue-blooded individual because only a person of a blue blood can have that type of strategic thinking.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Was there something in the film that, if you had the opportunity, that you may have changed in the film, or did you like everything as it was, status quo?
Well, I think that the fighting scene initially when his adopted homeland
Was
was
attacked.
done attacked, I think they could have done a little bit more with the graphics of that. I think it was kind of basic. It was
Mm,
traditional fighting scenes with the catapult and all of that. I think it should have been a little bit more energy put towards that. I think they just kind of rushed through that. I didn't like that as much as I liked the rest of the movie.
hmm that was an interesting scene to me because when they had the catapults going on, the ships that were using the catapults, you're pretty confident that you're hitting the enemy. But it was fascinating to me, the catapults that were on land and they were trying to hit the invaders on the ships. It's like how often would those projectiles that they were throwing would they actually hit a boat? Because when you think about it, a boat is not all that big. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So they're catapulting, but I guess that is the only form of attack that you have, I guess, to try to keep them off of you. But I thought it was interesting when they were attacking them and they got close enough with the boats, they had that large ramp that would expand from the boat. And then, they kind of attacked them, which was, definitely pretty interesting. What would you give your overall rating of this film, brother Carter? What would you rate this film on a scale of 1 to 10? What would you rate it and why?
I'll give it a strong 8.5. I
Mm,
really think that this movie did a very good job in connecting the first movie and the second movie together. It bridged it very well. It kept the characters in line from the first movie to the second movie. And I really like how they did that and created the full circle. It closed off because I never thought that they would even make a Gladiator 2, and they left us with some cliffhangers, especially when Lucius was shipped off by his mother. We never knew what happened to Lucius, and I'm glad they closed that loop for us. And I think they did an excellent job of doing that.
I like that. Let me see what would I give it. I I will say this. It exceeded my expectations, and I think my expectations were a little bit tainted initially because I saw online, you saw so many people saying the sequel nobody asked for, right? So you automatically in your mind are kind of going in thinking like, what is this really going to be about? All of that kind of stuff. So I would give it a good 7. I'm thinking anywhere from a 7.5 to an 8, but I'm a round up. I'm
Yeah,
a
yeah.
round up and I'm gonna give it an 8 for a couple of reasons. I did like some of the fight scenes. Like you said, I thought it was interesting how they kind of connected um, the first Gladiator to the second one. And then I really like what you said about the fulfillment of the idea. Even when the king was going to make Maximus the leader or the emperor of Rome, and his own son killed him at that time because he didn't want to let Maximus take over. His father had that idea of Rome, you know what I'm saying, giving
Yeah.
the power back to the people, Rome being ruled by leaders that actually want to see everyone, I guess, in the empire do well, and not all the what do you call it, the backstabbing, the what do you call it when you do things under the table that are
The
kind of
machinations. Yeah.
yeah, all of that. So we saw that happen with this one where he kind of took over. And then it was interesting how he got it. That last fight scene with Denzel where him and Denzel went at it. And
Hmm.
he defeated him and then brought both sanctions together because of it, because all of them were watching the fight take place. So I enjoyed it. That's why I'm thinking I'm going to give it a solid 8. Who do you think this film is for, Carter? If somebody's on a like, who would you say this film is for?
I think this film is for anyone who has given up on democracy. It lets you know that even though things may seem perilous, and that in certain political atmosphere where they think that we're in the dark days of democracy, that when the true will of the people prevail, justice rises to the top. And I think this movie was designed to give people the inspiration that they needed to believe that democracy is something that is relevant, and that if the people stay hopeful and involved, that no wickedness in high places can take away the true aspirations of the people. So it's a movie designed to create inspiration in people that good people will prevail.
I like that. Yeah, so I think it's definitely a film for people that like that are fans of Gladiator 1, of course, and
Mm,
people who like historical pieces and then also those action pieces as well. So I definitely think it was a solid film. And
absolutely.
thank you, brother Carter, for joining us. And
Yes, sir.
on that note, our watch has ended. Peace.